Hello crafty friend. Today's video is this Cricut Cardinal pop-up card. You can find this in Design Space. It's relatively easy to cut out with your machine and not too tricky to put together, but I'm going to show you how. Cut all the pieces you're going to need. We're going to start with the main part of the bird here. The black parts, they are similar in shape, but these ones have little dots in them and a slit at the top, and they're slightly slimmer than these ones, which don't have a dot, but they still have a little slit. So the bigger ones go with the middle part of the bird and the beaks, because that's going to go one on one side and then one on the other. And the ones with the dot, which creates the eye, go on the outside pieces of the bird. So they have to face each other because one is going on one side and one is going on the other. Using my tweezer tools here, I've picked up the beak. It's easier to control it, and then I've got my glue in my fine tip bottle here. You're just going to glue that on one side, making sure that you've got one facing one way and one facing the other way. This will make much more sense when you go to put the bird together. When sticking this piece down, make sure you align the slot in the top of the head with the slot on the top of the black piece here. This is important for when you put the bird together. There is a head piece that goes in to stabilize all the pieces, and you need the slits to line up so that it can slide straight in there and keep everything together. And you're going to repeat this on the other side. With these bits, make sure the bird parts are facing each other and that you've also got the opposite sides of the black pieces here. I'm just putting it in place to make sure I know exactly where it's going before I glue it down, which is always a good practice. And again, this has slits at the top on each side as well, so you have to make sure that that also lines up, and it lines up with the front of the bird. Adding the feet, we want to glue the cardinal onto the brown piece. I chose to cut them out of like a darker brown. I think in the design it's all like cream colored. I like the slightly more tan, looks more wood-like, but you can cut any of these cards out of any color you fancy, really. I've seen this card adapted quite a few times to different birds, different color versions of this card, and you could easily add holly or something to make it more sort of festive if you wanted a Christmas card. The orange part gets glued onto the front, and all these layers help stabilize the bird where it's sat in the center for that pop-up motion. Repeat with the other one. For the branches that the bird is standing on, there are 3 pieces, only one with these circles on though, and that's where the berries are going to attach to. So tiny bit of glue and stick those berries on in place. And then we flip it over and attach the berries on the other side. In this process, I did realize I had lost 2 of the berries along the way. Sometimes they get stuck in the cardstock. You don't notice when you're pulling it off the mat, especially with these tiny pieces. So I had lost 2 berries, but I just used a hole punch of the right size, punched 2 more berries, and there we have it. So I add those and we move along. When gluing the leaves on, make sure you have the right size leaf and that it's going to fit in the right shape. It curves slightly to one side, so when you're putting the glue on, the first few, that's fine, but then if you put the glue on the wrong side, when you turn it around, the leaves won't exactly match up with the brown underneath. So just check before you add the glue which way around you're going to put it on. Next up, we're going to add these tree branches to the inside inserts of the card. There is a pointy bit in the corner here on the branch, and that just tucks neatly into the corner of the card. And if it's in the right spot, these cut out leaves will appear to be coming off of the branch. On one side there are pen marks. When you cut it with the machine, you put a pen in there to draw these lines on the tree. Not the end of the world if you forgot to put the pen in and it doesn't draw the lines. You can add those later or just have the branch without, but it does kind of give it a little bit of depth if it has these lines on it. That one tucks nicely in the corner, just like that. The second branch lines up on the edge of the card at the top and at the side. So just make sure when you stick it down that it's flush in both those places, and it will be in exactly the right spot. Time to assemble the bird. I've laid out the pieces in the order that you will need them. The small piece on the left here is for the head. I put that on kind of after these body pieces, and you'll notice the first one is round at the top and the bottom. The other ones are flat on the top. They slide up. This is actually easier than it looks. For some unknown reason I made it look very difficult. You just slide it in the middle slot right up to the top. The next size up in the middle, and they get progressively smaller as they go down the bird, which makes sense because so does the bird's body. Take one of the sides and make sure that the face is facing out and not in towards the beak, and slide it up into the bottom slots of the pieces that you just put in for the center. Using a good quality cardstock, really makes a difference with all of these cards. It gives a nice clean cut. I use Recollections 65-pound cardstock for most of my card projects, and I find I don't really have a problem. As long as you have a clean mat and a clean sharp blade, then you should be fine. If something doesn't cut properly, you can always cut it again before removing the mat. That's a little secret there. But once you've removed the mat, it might not cut in the same place exactly. So always check that it's cut before you remove it. Adapting the settings as well. You can cut things on different settings. Just because it's cardstock doesn't mean you have to cut it on cardstock. If your cardstock cuts better on a different setting, then just go for it. Whatever works for you. This small piece goes in the head and it just slides on the top. Again, I'm making it look harder than it is. It's really not that tricky. Just slide it into the slots in the top of the head, and that's going to make everything a little bit more stable at the front of the bird. You attach the wings in the same way. They've got slits on them, so we slide these down into the remaining slits available on those center pieces. And there is a right way up. They won't obviously go on if you've got them the wrong way around, because the slits have to line up. So one on one side and one on the other. For the base of the card here to stabilize the bird, there are 3 bits. One with the berries on, one with the slots on the top, and one with the slots on the bottom. Now we're going to take the one with the slots on the bottom and slide these pieces up into it. So first with the leaves on the right hand side, and slide that up in there. Now there are score lines on the edge of here. There's a side one and then one at the bottom for the tab, so a horizontal and a vertical score line. You can fold them now or in a bit, really doesn't matter. I got distracted doing it here. Then we add this random piece that goes in next, slide it again up, and then this one goes on the very end. This is the same shape as the other random piece we just put in, but it also has tabs on it like the leaf piece that goes on the end, because the 2 slits in the middle are where the bird is going to go. So you're going to slide this on top of, kind of on top of its feet, so it appears to be standing on the branch, just like that. For the other 2 pieces of the branch, one's going in front and one behind. So this one goes behind and the berries one goes in front. It can be a bit tricky here, a little bit fiddly, but trust me, persevere, you'll get it. Just the slots inside the other slots. Take your time, don't get angry, get even. You'll get there in the end. Remember the tab on the bottom of the branches? One is going to go in this side here. The top one near the berries goes on this side. If you do it the other way around, the card will probably still work, but your bird would be facing the wrong way or your trees would be upside down. So the tab nearest the berries goes in this side of the card. Fold your main part of the card in half. There is a score line down the center. And then this piece is going to be glued into this side. I like to lay it in, lay it flat, check that the whole bird folds as it should. I've used glue to attach this, glued in the tab. And then the reason I didn't use tape gun on this one is because you can't get really close to the edges because of the leaves that are cut out. And it would just overlay with too much sticky on the tape. This way I get a little bit more accurate where I want it to stick down, and you can add in the center of the leaves if you want to, all the way around. You just have to be really careful not to put any in the center on this side, because you would see the glue through the other side where the bird is cut out on the front of the card. Now, as with the poppy one, I believe, and some others I've done, you can add colored cardstock or glitter cardstock between this layer and the front if you want, and that adds a little bit of bling, a little bit of sparkle to the very front of the card. We're going to repeat the step with this side of the card. There is also a slit on this side for the other tab to go in for the branch. This one was harder to do, so I ended up using my tweezer tool here to poke it through the hole and then grab it from the other side. Just like that. Put it in position and then glued that down and glued the back onto that green piece as well. Here's how the envelope goes together. This again cuts and scores with your Cricut. I used a slightly thicker cardstock for this one. It's patterned on one side, white on the other, and I just needed a ruler to line that up with the score lines as I folded. You can use pattern paper I use often for my envelopes, and the reason for that is it's nice and lightweight, and it can have a pretty pattern on one side and be white on the outside, easy to address them if you're mailing, and not too heavy, because some pop-up cards can have quite a few layers and get heavy. This actually worked out the same size as a 5x7 envelope, so if you pre-order your own envelopes, this one will fit in one of those as well, or you can make your own custom envelope like I am here. I add double-sided tape to the inside of the tab on my envelopes, because obviously I don't have any kind of sticky on there. They need to be able to close the envelope. So I added double-sided tape, and then when it comes time for them to mail the card, they just take the tape off. And here we go, the finished product. Thank you for making this card with me today. If you enjoyed it, I have lots more videos. Check out this playlist and you can see more of my pop-up cards, some Cricut designs as well as others. If you have an idea of something you'd like me to make, I've got all kinds of things coming for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Let me know what you'd like to see in the comments, and I will see you on the next one.